welcome. I'm Georgina and this is Quantum Convos. This is the first episode in my mini-series of conversations that I'm going to be having with my previous quantum healing hypnosis clients. So I'm lucky enough to have a bunch of amazing clients who have agreed to come and have a conversation with me. So I chose to create this mini-series from the perspective of the people that I've worked with. I'm going to be asking my previous clients to give a full description, share as much as they can about what it felt like. We're also going to be talking about transformations, which is obviously a really big part of the work. It's incredibly powerful and people come to me for all different reasons. So I'm lucky enough to be able to introduce to you this morning Grace Louise, and she's going to tell you all more about her quantum healing hypnosis experience with me, Georgina. Thank you for watching. So could you tell us a little bit more about what your whole experience was like? What past lives did you actually get to see within your hypnosis session?
Yeah, I find it really interesting because I'm so drawn to the sea in this life, I always think that I'm going to get something to do with sailing in the sea, because I do know that I do have this feeling that I've drowned in previous lives.
Wow.
But although I did actually drown in one of the lives. I've forgotten about that.
You did.
The third one I drowned. So the first one was, for me, was the most emotional.
Yeah.
And I was part of it was like a brotherhood or something. It was very secret, and it was working for good. It was all to do with energy work.
Yeah.
And I was away from my family, or where I grew up, and it was a very tight knit, it was like a bit like an army unit, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And I was a female, but I was wearing very dark clothes, and we were on some sort of mission. It was to do with energy.
That's right.
And
yeah.
there was no talking involved, but something happened and I was injured. I'd got a sword injury on my shoulder. I think it was this shoulder. And it was really raining, and it was really interesting how the details come to you, because they can come to you quite quickly or quite slowly.
Yeah.
And that was what was really great about, say, your questioning.
Yeah.
Because then the questions were really good at getting the information out, because you'd ask the question and the answer, you would sort of see it as part of it. And basically something happened, and something went wrong.
Yeah.
And it was my fault that it had gone wrong within this sort of mission that we were on. Mm. And it was but it was for good. And it was, and I'd done something, and I didn't know at the beginning of the life what I'd done. But then as it kept going on, so I'd made this mistake, and it was very much, that was really upsetting. I remember being very upset because it was the disconnection, because my energy wasn't the same as theirs, so there was a discordance in the energy, so the energy flow had been disrupted. And at first I was very much, oh, this is my fault. But then as you move me forward in the life, then very much, I was still in the group, I'm part of the group, but I was shunned within the group.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't, and I didn't think like them, because I could actually see, and then I realised that I'd spoken words.
Yeah.
And they didn't see the need for the use of words.
That's right.
But through the mistake, I'd realised the power of words.
Yeah.
And that actually, if you're very careful with your words, and the thing that sort of pops into mind a bit, God was the Word and the Word was God, because we make gods of our words.
Yeah.
So that was very much part of it. But it was the overwhelming thing was the grief that they had not, that they wouldn't speak to me. But I was still being kept there, like I couldn't go home. And the last part was I was just devastated, because they wouldn't bear witness and they wouldn't listen to me, and I can remember just being really, really upset.
Yeah.
and I think I basically died. I basically wasted away, I think, and died of like grief. It was very emotional. There was no pain, but it was very emotional. And you did some healing with me, because I had a wee bit of a physical reaction, but you calmed me down really quickly, so that was really good. And then you moved me on to the next life. So for me, the first life was the most emotional, the most intense.
Yeah. The intensity of your first life, I remember how emotional that was for you. And obviously there was a lot of connection between your breathing and your kind of the throat symptoms that you were having, and then that life where you were kind of
because it was just so stuck. It was all stuck here.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember that. Could you tell us more about your second life?
Yeah, and that was a really interesting thing as well, because with the second life, was the death sounds a lot more dramatic.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about the death. And basically what was happening was, in the second life, I was a wise woman, and I lived out in the forest, and I lived in a lodge, and just the birds and the animals and the trees and the herbs, and people came to me, and I was working with a little boy. There's something wrong with his leg. I think he'd broken his leg, or there was things that I was working with, and people came to me, and it was and they were happy that I lived out at the village, out of the village, and I was happy that I lived out in the village. And it was around a time when there was witch hunts started up. So it was that thing of, when I popped into the life, it sort of threw me off a little bit to begin with. And that's one thing I would say to people, is that just say what you see, because it may not make sense. Because when I went into that life, I was in a prison cell, but I was in this bubble.
Yeah.
And it was like I was floating above the air.
Yeah.
And all I could just see was this prison cell.
Yeah.
So I don't feel as if I was in my body at the time, but I couldn't see myself.
Yeah.
But it was this thing of, I was very protected. That was the feeling. And then it went then back to me being in the forest. And then it was just literally, it was like the soldiers came, and they, I just got taken away, thrown into this cell, and I could see, floating in the bubble, I could see out the cell window, and I could see the pile of sticks and to burn the stake, to burn me at the stake. So I was burnt at the stake, and the bit in the life was that they got the villagers to actually burn me. And it's that thing of the propaganda, I suppose, is how they sort of turn people against you. And they were quite happy to burn me, and so that was the second life. And it wasn't even the fact that I was being burnt; it was the fact that I'd helped these people, and then they'd come along and just burnt me. And I always wondered, because smoke does always follow me. when there's a fire, wherever I sit, that's where the smoke goes.
So what was your third life? I can't remember your third life.
The third life was it was actually a really lovely life. And it was I was up a mountain, and I was a goat farmer, and thank you, Dash. Dash is just licking my feet. Thank you, gorgeous. Oh, that was lovely. Yes. I was up the mountain. I herded goats. That's
it.
Right.
You did.
I herded goats. High on a hill with a little maker. I'm not sing. Yes, I was a goat herder, and they were my flock, and I had a wife. I was a man, and it was just all about being in nature. It was a really simple life, and it was a nice life. We weren't rich, but we were just happy, and it was just a simple life and a simple death. I fell into the river, and I broke my leg, and drowned because I couldn't swim, And it was just I left the life just feeling regret of the wife that I had left behind. It was a very, with the detail, it was very domestic, wasn't it? Because it was all about what my wife did and what she made and how she sold the milk, and it was just very, very simple. And after the intensity of the other two lives, it was really quite nice. And I always, reflecting on it, it was just a wee reminder that there was still learning from that life, but it was that thing of every life is not necessarily going to be like a mad life. So it felt that it was almost like, it did feel a bit like what I would call a respite life.
Yes, I was just about to use the word
Yes.
rest.
Yeah, it was that thing of, it was a restful life. And I do feel that how you progress spiritually, but how you develop even in spirit, because it's all about learning even in spirit, I do feel is up to you.
Yeah.
So even when you get back, you can stay up in spirit, or you can come down and have a restful life.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel this one was.
Yeah.
Was that it was a case of still wanted to come to the earth, but just needed to be with nature.
Yeah.
After, some of the other lives that I know that I've had.
Yeah.
So that was the third one. And it was a lovely one to end on as well.
It was.
Yeah.
So, Gracie, can you tell us what it felt like when I connected directly with your subconscious?
From what I remember, it was a very gentle thing. It wasn't, there was no trauma in it. It was just really waiting for whatever was going to come forward. And it is that thing of, definitely to begin with, it was the mind was going, though that, there was still a wee bit of aspect of that with me, but then that's the thing, because I'm very fascinated by a process.
Yeah.
So even though you'd put me under, there was still a level of consciousness that was going, oh, this is really exciting. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be really interesting to see what it's like the next time.
Yeah.
But it was just very gentle, and it was just waiting for everything to come forward, and it was just a very comfortable space. I can remember, I think I asked you, or I said to you, I really need to sit up.
You did.
And I feel that at one point I felt that I could have even opened my eyes, and I wouldn't have actually come out of the hypnosis.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I felt very secure within it.
Yeah.
And that's maybe something for people to remember, do you know what I mean? Because I think definitely, because there was parts of me going, you can't sit up, because I didn't feel as if I was hypnotized, basically.
Of course, yeah.
You're not, and you don't feel, there's no out of control feeling.
Yeah.
I know sometimes people have worries about that. There was just none of that. It was just comfort. And then if you're feeling discomfort in the body, I felt okay to say that I was feeling a bit discomfort, and it was just the way I was lying. So then I was able to sit up, and that was better for me. And you allowed me, you allowed me, for want of a better word, to do what felt comfortable for me. So that was really good. Yeah.
So I guess the final question I wanted to ask, and I know it's a big thing for people out there watching, they're all going to want to know how your life changed since the session that we had, which was back in December, I think now.
Yeah, it's been quite interesting because it's been quite a long time.
Yeah.
But even sort of preparing for today, I realised that it's not just the healing that happens immediately afterwards, because we've got another piece of particularly the first life today, and that was the emotion and not being understood, and I care a lot less about that now, and don't get upset about other people understanding.
Yeah.
There's not the need. What's the need is there's the recognition there that I just it's important just for me to learn by my mistakes, that mistakes are how you learn, so they're not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
Instead of just getting caught up in the grief, which is actually quite childlike. It's like, and I can see how that's happened in this life as well, where it's the need to be believed, or when actually all that matters is that you know what's true for you.
Yeah.
So that has definitely helped, and come back to even more discernment now about words. Because at the time that was a breakthrough, but then it feels like a full circle moment, that I've come back to what is actually the words are powerful, but with that comes responsibility.
Yeah.
So you do need to be impeccable with your word.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to be
words.
impeccable with your word. Not my words.
Yeah.
That's actually from the Four Agreements, which is ancient Toltec wisdom.
Okay.
And one of them is be impeccable with your word, and it feels like that's come full circle. It's very much, it feels that looking at the particularly, and then the second life as well, it was that thing of, it's that thing of you just never know whatever way people are going to go with things, or how they're going to react.
Yeah.
So it's that thing of just know that people will be doing whatever they do, and they could be in fear or whatever, but again, that's their part in the play, and you've just got to look at your part. Because it was that thing of the upset of being betrayed by the villagers.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of just know that when anything that people do to you, it's not actually personal. It feels personal. It feels very personal.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily personal at all. They're just acting out in their own pain. Yeah. And then the third life was just lovely. It was just, it just showed me that there are lives where you have a nice respite life, where it's very simple and down to earth, and you're just doing your thing, but still learning. So I feel that it has definitely helped me a lot in dealing with what's going on in life generally now as well. So it's just really keeping me focused on the point of me continuing on my own path for my highest good, with the correct intent, and if I do that, I can't go wrong. So yeah, that's been the biggest thing, and very timely as well, very timely, because there's lots and lots of challenges out there, and every time I check in with myself, inside, that quiet part inside where I feel part of your soul resides, it's always I'm okay, I'm going to be okay. So it's just checking back in with that, and not being drawn out into the world, and getting involved in all the emotions and everything, because it's just very, very destructive, or it can be, and just staying with, there's another soul in front of you. So I went off, I can't say that word, off philosophical there, didn't I?
So today's been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with me and with everyone watching.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So I guess the last thing that I did want to ask you was, what would you say to anyone thinking about or considering having a quantum hypnosis healing session?
First of all, I would say to them to make sure they come to you, because that's the one thing that's not really been covered in this, in that I felt very supported throughout the process. I felt very safe throughout the process. And I am very discerning about who I go to for treatments with. And I just felt completely supported the whole way, and I felt very safe. The things that I know, with things that, you know, how you do with the healing and everything, the words again are just so perfect. And it really, really helps to know that there's someone there as well, if you've got at the end of the phone that you can talk to as well after the session, which is really important. So you're not just left high and dry. As to somebody going to it, absolutely. It's that thing of having an idea about what you're wanting to look for the healing. But even with that, even if there's just a general feeling that you feel that this could work for you, what will come out during the initial consultation, and there will be a way forward. And it will be the thing, as a someone who does life coaching and all sorts of things as well, I do know that where interest goes, energy flows. And Georgina is an excellent therapist, and she will follow that flow. Her questioning is fantastic, and it will come out, and what is what's needed will come out within the thing. I mean, in that session I knew particularly what I wanted to look for. We're now going to be doing another session, and again, I know I've already got an idea. It's not a firm idea, but they somehow feel interlinked. But I'm completely confident in that through the initial talk session, and then through what actually comes out in the lives, what will come out is what I actually need.
Yeah. And
I've utmost confidence in that, and particularly with Georgina, that I'll not be steered another way. So yeah, I've definitely noticed a difference, and it's a very joyful difference. It is a joyful difference.
Lovely.
Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.